and different aspects of gaiva. Hamashiva chacham machar v'daita misakelas. Of course, the power, the destructive power of gaiva, is that it goes ahead and it could confuse and uproot even the greatest of chachamim. Right? Gaiva has a way often of putting emotion before intellect. Gaiva has a way ultimately of making us do irrational things, and even the wisest of all people, Mesir Leiv Rashi Chachma. Ultimately, again, it has the ability to remove even the most firmly embedded pillars of wisdom. Ba'af ki talmidim shelo shimshu kol tzarkam shekimat shenifkachu eineihem kvar chachmei hachacham shavnu lahem belibam. Va'al kulam ne'amar to'avas Hashem kol gevalev umikulam tzark sheyinaki harotze midas hanakiyas. So we'll say, so again, amazingly enough, he quotes over here the pasuk from Mishlei, where Shalom Melech refers to a Baal Gaiva, ultimately, or to Gaiva as a Toeva, an abomination. And I will say, and that's a very strong word, right? Toeva was used often in the context of immorality, and the notion that that same word is used over here in the context of Gaiva is incredibly profound. How could giving us a window, giving us an insight into how incredibly destructive this Niddah is. The Yed of Yavin, Ki ein ha-gaiva, ela ivaron mamish. Let's listen to this. You know what Gaiva is? Gaiva is mamish blindness. It's complete blindness. A person, asher ein seichal adam roa, chasronuso, umakeb chisuso. A person cannot realize his own deficiencies and does not recognize his own lowliness. Lowliness, not loneliness, lowliness. It's an incredible idea. That's the destructive nature of gaiva. See, we often think gaiva is terrible because the truth is it's just a hard way to interact with people. Right? People don't usually like being around the bale gaiva. But he's saying over here the real destructive nature of gaiva is that when a person thinks that they're so great, they simply cannot see their own deficiencies or weaknesses. Shilu hayayachal liros v'hayamakira emes. If a person was able to see what he really was and recognize the truth, hayasar umisrachek mikol adrachim haraim v'hamikul kalim ha'ela herchek gadol. If a person realized the collateral damage of gaiva, and a person was therefore able to see all of his negative traits and shortcomings, which we all possess, then a person will say, the first step in growth is a recognition of your weaknesses. If I can't see my weaknesses, or I don't want to see my weaknesses, then at the end of the day, growth is virtually impossible. But halacha l'maisa, if I'm willing to go ahead and acknowledge the deficiencies that I possess, then the sky's the limit. That's why this gaiva, says Ramchal, is so profoundly problematic. Va'od nedaber mizeh b'siyata d'shmaya b'vo'enu al midas ha'anava. And Habba said, interestingly enough, as much as we've already spoken a lot about gaiva, we're going to speak more about gaiva, because as we're going to see that one of the last traits in Mesilas, one of the last midos, is anava, is humility. Now, understand, Mesilas Yesharim is based on we'll call it like the progression, the character development progression, or the spiritual development progression, as espoused by Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair. And the way that this works is you go from step to step to step to step, each step building on the next. Now it's interesting to note, says the Ramchal, that one of the last steps in this character midos development is anava, humility. Why is humility one of the last steps? Look what he writes. He says, because humility is perhaps amongst the most difficult traits to acquire. Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair put it at the end of the progression. And I begin to understand, why is it that I can't be a balanava unless I'm willing to combat my gaiva. So because gaiva is so difficult ultimately to go ahead and eradicate, therefore anava becomes one of the most difficult midos. When now that we've currently concluded our regarding gaiva. Let's go speak about anger. Kas. Hine. This is incredible. Hine. So I'll say, understand what he's just to understand the context over here. The Ramchal's goal in this particular chapter is to highlight that if you really want to grow in life, you have to be attentive even to the smallest of details and appendages of chait. There's a lot of things in life that are wrong. What ends up happening is we're very careful with like the big stuff, right? But then the appendages and the offshoots of the negative traits, either we don't realize that they're problematic or we're just not as vigilant about it. Kios says that if you want to grow, you have to try to attack sin in all of its vestiges, branches, and appendages. So what he's showing us throughout this chapter is ultimately, again, how many of the negative traits that we all know, right? It's not the pshat that like the jury's out on gaiva. You know, is it good? Is it not so good? We all know it's bad, and we all know like dramatic manifestations of gaiva. Just sometimes it's the more nuanced things that we're not as clear about. Same thing with kas. Let's talk about kas, anger, for just a moment. Hine yeshar ragzam. Shamrala. So we'll say so we know that there's the person who gets angry. And when a person gets angry, what does the Gemara say? If a person gets angry, it's as if he is worshipping idolatry. We'll say such a dramatic statement. What's the pshat? So first of all, we know that at the end of, well, he writes, V'hu hanichas al hanichas al davar shiyasu neged ritzono. V'hu hanichas al kol davar shiyasu neged ritzono. So we'll say, what does this refer to? So first of all, I understand the concept. What does it mean if you get angry, it's like you worship idolatry? So first of all, we'll say, what happened? All of us know, because I venture to say probably all of us have experienced that at one time or another. You can get so angry at something in life that you lose control. That you totally like lose control. And you lose control of yourself. You even like lose sight of what it is that you believe in, that what's important to you, to the point that even your relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu could be fundamentally fractured through this incredible, intense episode of anger. So we'll say, so look what so the Ramchal defines, who is this person who gets so angry that he forgets about HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Listen to this. V'hu hanichas. This is a person who gets angry. Al kol davar sheya'asu neged ritzono. This is a person who gets angry every single time something doesn't go my way. Right? Now, you hear this idea. So there are people who every time something doesn't go their way, they get angry. Now, the truth is, that's not as much a kas problem, as much as what? As a gaiva problem. Right? That's a significant gaiva problem, because sometimes a person thinks, I'm always right, I'm always correct, everything should go my way. And so when a person thinks that way, ultimately what occurs? So when something doesn't go their way, they end up getting angry. So anger is the manifest. Often, so this is why it's not haphazard that Ramchal is quoting both of these concepts back to back, because often a problem with kas is a manifestation of unchecked gaiva. Things have to go my way. There's a plan. This is how it should be. And when it doesn't, I get angry. He goes on, and a person gets so angry that he can't think straight. Right? So upset that all he sees is red. So upset that literally again he can't even control his reaction to things. V'hinei ish kazeh. Listen to this, Rabbi say. Ish kazeh kedai lahachriv olam molei im hiyeh yicholes biyado. Rabbi say a person who suffers from unchecked anger would destroy a whole world if he had the power to do so. In other words, anger could be such a profoundly destructive niddah that literally, again, had a person had the means to destroy a world, he would do so. Because we'll say, what's the problem with anger? Anger is when you allow anger allows emotion to take over, and intellect is totally subdued, totally put on the back burner. Vusartam mamish. And a person could lose all logic and all reason. It's actually a very strong word to listen to this. Kichol hachayos, page kuf chav ches, hatarfos. And a person literally becomes, let's listen to the description, literally becomes like a predatory animal. It's incredible. right? Like a predatory animal. What does a predatory animal do? What does it do? It attacks. That's what it does, right? That's its avoda. It attacks. A person could lose their seichel, mamish like a predatory animal. Ba'alav ne'emar torif nafsho ba'apo halman choti aziv aretz v'ukal vaday la'avar kol minei averos sheba'olam. And a person in a state of kas could end up violating so many different averos. Im chamaso tivi ehu lahem. If his anger allows him to come to this, ki kvar ein lo mania acher ela kaso. Because the boss say, here's the problem. Under normal circumstances, most of us possess some type of internal system of checks and balances, right? There are things that even if I would like to do it, I know that I'm not going to do it because it's not the right thing. But when there is kas, that entire system is totally upended. When there's kas, intellect is done. Right, when there's kas, intellect is no longer part of the picture, and when intellect is no longer there, a person could destroy a world in its entirety. That's the power of kas. So we'll stop over here for today. We'll pick up in Meretz Hashem and we'll see. Of course, remember, when we speak about kas, it's important to understand, we're assuming that you're talking about a guy who's going to get, nostril flaring angry when something happens. But I will say, we're going to see there's another type of kas. And the other type of kas is a person who keeps anger on the inside. I will say there are plenty of people who, you could encounter a person and the person is very subdued externally, but they're seething with internal anger. There are people who are seething with internal anger because of frustration, because of unhappiness, because things didn't go their way. So we'll see that when we speak about the Baalei Kas, and those people, just because they're not experiencing an external explosion, doesn't mean that they are not ripe for all the same mistakes of kas as a result of that internal anger that's mounting. So Meretz Hashem, we'll see the different levels of kas in Meretz Hashem tomorrow. All right, so we'll say good morning. Let's begin. So we left off with today's daf is Chav Tes 29. We are picking up on Chav Chesamid Beis 28b. Ha Nami Mi Boile. It's the second to last short line. It's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 lines up from the bottom. So we'll say, remember again, just to reorient ourselves a little bit. We had a fascinating Mishnah at the end of Chav Ches Amud Aleph in yesterday's daf, that if a woman miscarries, she expels a tumtum and androgynous. So remember again, what's the halacha? So the halacha is Teishev l'zachar u'lenekeva. She goes in and observes the Yimei Tumah and Yimei Tara, ultimately again, for Zachar and Nekeva. So it says, if you remember again, we then got into the interesting discussion about a tumtum and androgynous who went ahead and saw Lavan o Adam. They had either a white emission or a red emission. So if it was either or, so the Gemara said in that circumstance, the halacha is you're not chayiv for bias mikdash, and ultimately again we would not burn truma that they touched. If, however, again the tumtum or androgynous saw both Lavan and Adam, saw both red and white emission, so we'll say what's the halacha? They're not chayiv for bias mikdash, but if they were to touch truma, ultimately we would burn the truma under those circumstances. So why is that, Rabbi say? So why is it that they're not chayiv for bias mikdash? So the Gemara made the drasha of mizachar va'ad nekeva. That Rabbi say ultimately again, since the pasuk by bias mikdash says mizachar va'ad nekeva, teaches me that it is only a zachar vadai or a nekeva vadais, ultimately again, who go ahead and are chayiv for bias mikdash. But if tumtum and androgynous, who are not zachar vadai or nekeva vadais, therefore will not be chayiv. The Gemara then quoted the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer. Second possibility, and maybe the issue over here is what? Maybe the issue with Rabbi Eliezer is that you're only chayiv if you know the definitive source of your tumah. But because in this case over here, the definitive source of the tumah is unknown, therefore halacha l'maisa, the tumtum androgynous will not be chayiv. So we'll say let's pick up with that. So he kind of left off in the middle of the drashas. Hai nami, to which the Gemara says this drasha of zachar nekeva mibayle is also needed for a different drasha, but mishi yishlo tara b'mikvah. So we'll say comes to teaching that what? That halacha l'maisa only with someone who has tara in a mikvah. So we'll say lafuke what? Prat likli cheres. They will say they teach me ultimately again to exclude a kli cheres, that even if a kli cheres becomes tamei, halacha l'maisa, there is no obligation to go ahead and remove it from the mikdash. Div Rabbi Yossi. Imkein, nichtov rachmana adam. If that's the case, then let the pasuk just say adam. V'chi tema ikasa rachmana adam. And you might have thought as far as if it just said adam, havamina klimatachos lo. You might have thought that again this doesn't apply to metal utensils. That halacha l'maisa, if a metal utensil is tamei and brought accidentally into the Beis Hamikdash, that halacha l'maisa you don't have to remove it. Therefore, again, we call tamei lenefesh nafka. From that I will learn from called tamei lenefesh zachar unekeva lamali. So we'll say if that's the case, then what do I need zachar and nekeva for? L'chidirav. Ultimately, again, for the drasha of Rav, as we saw before. Ve'ima kule l'chidirav udasa. So say that the entire drasha comes for Rav. Imki nichtov zachar unekeva. Let it just say zachar unekeva. We'll say this was Rabbi Lichterman's question after Shir yesterday. Ma'imi zachar va'ad nekeva. Why do you have to have that prolonged verbiage of zachar ad nekeva? So the Gemara says, ma'imi zachar va'ad nekeva. Ad kol davar sheish lo tara b'mikvah. Because we'll say, interestingly enough, see, the challenging part of mizachar va'ad nekeva sounds like it's doing what? It's creating like a continuum, like almost like a gender continuum. But obviously that cannot be true. There is no gender continuum in halacha. There's zachar unikeva. So, but yet, why? So just say zachar nekeva. Why say zachar ad nekeva? So we'll say to include other things ultimately again in the halachos of tum and tara that are non-gender based. What are the things that are also included in tum and tara that are non-gender based? Anything that has tara in a mikvah. So we'll say it's actually a very interesting halacha. The Gemara is suggesting that there's a halacha that says you can't come into the Beis Hamikdash in a state of tumah. Right? And if you came into the Beis in a state of tumah, obviously you have to leave. You have to leave as quickly as possible. That doesn't only apply to people. That also could apply to things. Which type of things? Only things that are like people. Which type of things are like people? Just like people have tara in a mikvah, so too the types of things that have tara in a mikvah are subject to the halachos of bias mikdash. What are the types of things that have tara in a mikvah? Utensils. What type of utensils? Metal utensils. What type of utensils do not fit this criteria? Earthenware utensils. So for example, if you were to accidentally bring a tummy metal utensil into the Beis Hamikdash, the halacha would be that what? You'd be obligated to remove it as quickly as possible. If that's the case in halacha l'maisa, when the tumtum and androgynous become tummy with other forms of tumah, so let's say forget about Adom and Lavan. What happens if the tumtum and androgynous comes in contact with a corpse or comes in contact with a sheretz? So halacha l'maisa, they shouldn't be obligated to leave the Beis Hamikdash as well. But we know that's not true. Amrikra mizachar mituma poreshes minazachar. Because we'll say ultimately again, this particular halacha that they're not obligated in bias mikdash, dafka refers to the type of tumah that is gender-related tumah. What's the tumah that's gender-related tumah? For men, for a man it's a seminal emission, and for women it's either a niddah or a zava emission. But for other types of tumah, interestingly enough, a tumtum and androgynous will be subject to. So if a tumtum and androgynous goes ahead and touches a corpse and then enters into the Beis Hamikdash, they are chayiv for bias mikdash. It's just unique over here, this type of tumah, which is a gender-related tumah, that they're not subject to. Are you telling me that whenever the pasuk says mizachar va'ad nekeva, that ultimately it comes to exclude tumtum and androgynous? But yet by erchin it says hazachar. So we'll say, remember again, by erchin, which is personal valuations, right? A person makes an erech vow. So what's the halach with an erech vow? So we'll say there are objective valuations. A man between so and so ages is worth X. A woman between so and so ages is worth Y. So yet it says zachar. So you tell me then that it doesn't apply to tumtum and androgynous? To which the Gemara says, Vitanya, hazachar v'lo tumtum, v'androgynous, lachol yachol lo yehe be'erech ish, Aval yibe erech isha. So I might have thought that a tumtum maybe is not valued as a man, but will be valued as a woman. Talmud lomar hazachar ve'im nekeva. Zachar vadai nekeva vadas velov tumtum va'androgynous. So we'll say therefore the pasuk says hazachar and im nekeva to teach you that the halachos of erech vows only apply to a zachar nekeva, not to tumtum and androgynous. So, but the reason for that taima tichsev hazachar ve'im nekeva. There was this very specific wording over here. It says hazachar, the male, ve'im nekeva, and if she's a male, hai mi zachar unekeva lo memait. But we'll say it's possible would have said the formulation of zachar unikeva that you would not exclude tumtum and androgynous from erech vows. Which Gemara says no. Hahomi baile. I both say the truth is ultimately again I need zachar unikeva. Why? Top of chavtes lechalik ben erech ish le erech isha. So both say the phrase zachar unikeva teaches me on a very basic level that there is a fundamental distinction ultimately again between the erech values of men and women. So we'll say, so interestingly enough, bottom line, halacha lamaisa, what comes out of this Gemara is as follows: a fascinating halacha by tumtum and androgynous, namely that the Rambam actually codifies these halachas, halacha lamaisa, that if you have a tumtum and androgynous that had either a red or white emission, halacha lamaisa, they're not chayiv for bias mikdash, and they're not, and if they touch truma, the truma is not tameya. Now we pointed out it's not tameya, but you would say tolin to that truma. However, if the tumtum and androgynous has both a red and white emission, under those circumstances, they still will not be chai for bias mikdash, but truma will be burned. Truma will be burned because definitively they're tamei. Bias mikdash they will not be chai for either for one of the two reasons we espoused, either because of the phrase of mizachar vad nekeva, zachar vad nekeva vadais, or Rabbi Eliezer, that in order to be chai for bias mikdash, you must know the definitive source of your tumah. Good. Yatsa mechutach hamusra. So what's the next part of the Mishnah? So the Mishnah said that if a woman expelled the fetus, and the fetus came out muchutach. Muchutach means in pieces, or mesuras, breech, feet first. So under those circumstances, Rabbi say, at what point in time does she become tamei with tumas leida? Mishayatza rubo. When the majority of the baby comes out, that's when it's considered to be a leida. We'll say this is different as opposed to yatza kedarko. If she delivers naturally, the moment that the majority of the head comes out, that's considered a birth. The majority of the head, the Mishnah defines as emergence of the forehead. Once the forehead removes, that's considered to be a leida. So we'll say it's a fundamental distinction as to when a woman becomes tamei tumas leida. Again, one more time. If she's expelling the fetus in pieces, or the fetus is coming out feet first, the halacha is the same. The majority of the body of the fetus must come out for her to be tamei tumas leida. If it's a natural birth, majority of the head, i.e. emergence of the forehead. Says the Gemara, Amar Belazar afilu haroshiman. So this is actually very interesting. In the case of mechutach, where the fetus is coming out in pieces, so we'll say what happens if amongst the pieces is the head. So Rabbi Elazar says, even the head, right? In other words, that halacha lemaisa, once the fetus is coming out in pieces, the head is no longer significant, right? The head is like any other part of the body. So I will say, even if she expels the head, halacha lemaisa, she'll only be tamei tumas leida if what? If the majority of the body comes out. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Lo Shana Elo She'ena Rosh Iman. Avali Rosh Iman Arosh Poter. So we'll say, changes it over here. Harihu Ki Yalud. So we'll say, Rabbi Yochanan says, no. The head is always significant. And even halacha lemaisa, when the Mishnah said that if she's expelling the fetus in pieces, she's only tamei if the majority of the body comes out. That assumes the head is not coming out. Once the head comes out, the fetus is considered to have been birthed. So we'll say it's a fundamental machlokes about the role of the head in a situation where the fetus is coming out in pieces. So we'll say ultimately again say that they're arguing in Shita Shmuel. Damar Shmuel, Ein Harosh Poter ben Efalim, because Rosh Shmuel says as follows. We'll say take a look at Rashi. Ein Harosh Poter ben Efalim, Yotze Rosh Hanefel, Kegon Yoleves Tomim Meshiva, Echad Nigmarat Raso ve'Echad Lo Nigmarat Raso, V'Yotze Rosh Hanefel ve'Chziro ve'Achar Kach Yotze Achim. I'm reading Rashi. Havi Bechor LeKohen, Shein Rosh Hanefel Poter Asaba Achra Mina Bechora. Supposed to listen to this. Shmuel says as follows. Let's see the following situation. A woman is carrying twins. One of the fetuses died in utero, right? So what happens? Now she's giving birth. The head of the deceased fetus comes out first and then comes back in. Then the living baby is born. So both say, so what's the status now? So obviously the shaila is, is the living baby the Bechor or not? So Shmuel says that halacha l'maisa, when it comes to a non-viable fetus, even if the head of the deceased fetus comes out, that's not called a birth. That's not called a birth. And therefore the second viable baby ultimately again will be the Bechor. So what do you see from here? What is Shmuel essentially saying? That the birthing of the head is only significant in a viable fetus. But halacha l'maisa again, where the fetus is not viable, the birthing of the head is no different than the birthing of the rest of the body. And by a non-viable fetus, it's only if the majority of the body is born, or is expelled, that halacha l'maisa, the baby is considered to have been birthed. To which the Gemara says, B'shalim, if the fetus is coming out intact, the kuli amalo pligi. So we'll say, so the Gemara suggests something very interesting. If the baby is intact, everyone agrees. Ki pligi b'mechutach. When do they argue? When the fetus is coming out in pieces. Demar savar b'shalim hu dekachashiv. So, because one opinion holds, it's only when the fetus is intact that the birth of the head is significant. B'mechutach, but if it's coming out in pieces, then halacha l'maisa lo kachashiv. Ultimately, again, once it's coming out in pieces, Rabbi say, the head is no different than the arm. And therefore, the halacha is, what do you need in order for the baby to be considered birthed? The majority of the body. And the other opinion says, no. Even when the baby is coming out in pieces, halacha l'maisa, the birth of the head is still significant and creates the metzius of being birthed. Lishnach, another version of this, the reason why we're saying this is because the baby came out in pieces, but if the baby was coming out in the normal fashion, harosh poter, ultimately again the head exempts, and tarvayu les lehu d'Shmuel. And both according to this version, both opinions, Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Yochanan, neither would hold of Shmuel. The Gemara says, Damar Shmuel ein harosh poter b'nefalim. Because Shmuel in general says, the head does not go ahead and create a metzius of birth in a non-viable fetus. So I just want to point out, Shita Shmuel is, even if the fetus is intact, right? The birth of the Shmuel holds that a deceased fetus is only considered birthed when the majority of the body comes out. The head is irrelevant in a deceased fetus because it's no different than anything else. That's Shmuel's Shita. So the Gemara says, so we'll say others explain this machlokes independently. They say as follows. The Rabbi Elazar says as follows: Ein harosh kirov evarim. Rabbi Elazar says the head is not like the majority of the limbs. Rabbi say what that means is as follows: that in this, if you look at Rashi, Ein harosh kirov evarim, yatz harosh eino ki yalad u'b'nefal kai. So let's listen to this. So according to this version, the same idea as we said before, but Rabbi Elazar says that in a fetus, that in a non-viable fetus, the birth of the head is not like the birth of the majority of the body. And the birth of the head will just be like the birth of any other limb. And when the fetus is not alive, the only time she becomes Tamei Tumas Niddah is when she expels the majority of the baby. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Harosh Kirov Evarim. And Rabbi Yochanan says, no, not true. Halacha l'maisa, the rosh, the head, even of a deceased fetus, is the equivalent of having birthed the majority of the body. So Rabbi Yochanan holds that halacha l'maisa, the head coming out is significant, both by a living baby as well as by a deceased one. The kamir fligi b'deshmuel, and ultimately again they're arguing in Shida Shmuel. Tanan, so we'll say yatsa mechuta. So we'll say let's analyze this. So here's the yesodistic machlokes. Here's what we know. Shmuel says that the emergence of the head of a nefal means a deceased fetus, right? The emergence of the head is irrelevant. The halach of a fetus is always the same, which is, in order for the deceased fetus to have considered to have been birthed, what has to happen? Majority of the body has to come out. That's Shita Shmuel. So apparently Elazar, Rabbi Yochanan are arguing Yeshua. But Elazar says the head is not significant by a nefal, only the majority of the body. Rabbi Yochanan says no, the birthing of the head is always significant, and even by a nefal, once the head comes out, the baby is considered birthed, and she is Tamei Tumas Niddah. So let's analyze. Says the Gemara Tanan, Yatsa b'chotacha musuras. If the baby comes out, Mishnah says baby comes out in pieces or feet first. Ultimately, again, once the baby Once the majority of the baby comes out, it is considered to have been birthed. So midikamer mesuras. Now, say the fact that it's. Now remember, the Mishnah lumps together the cases of breach, right? The cases of feet first and mechutach and pieces. So the Gemara says it's interesting that we're linking those two. So the Gemara says midikamer mesuras, since it's including the case ultimately again of feet first. Mechlal de mechutach kitikno. So we'll say that sounds like. So we'll say the fact that it's bringing down both these cases, but the cases are different. Sounds like the case of mesuras is feet first. What's the case of mechutach? What's the case of mechutach? Head first. Granted, it's pieces, but lamaisa is coming out head first. Now, both say, and what does the Mishnah say? Even though the baby is coming out head first. The Mishnah says what? That ultimately it's only when the majority of the baby comes out, that's when it's considered to be birthed. So you see over here that by a nafil, right, even if it's coming out head first, the birth of the head is not significant. You still need the rov of the body. To which the Gemara says, Kashil Rabbi Yochanan. This seems to pose a contradiction to Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan will say, no. Ema, Yatsa Mechutach Umesuras. So Rabbi Yochanan says, what's the case? Both say it's not either or, it's actually both. The case of the Mishnah is Mechutach Umesuras. It's coming out in pieces and feet first. So the Gemara says, that's not what the Mishnah says. V'ha o katani. It says o. O means, of course, either or. Hachigam, this is what it means to say. Yatsa Mechutach o shalem. If the fetus comes out in pieces or complete. Zeh v'zeh mesuras. Both are considered to be a case of mesuras. Mishiyatza ruba hare zeki yalud. Right? Ultimately, again, so therefore, again, the Mishnah could be saying that halacha lemaisa, whatever way the baby is coming out, it's coming out feet first, it's coming out head first. If it's coming out in pieces, halacha lemaisa, ultimately, again, only when the majority of the body comes out is it yalud. Amra Papa. Papa says, in fact, this is machlokes tanoim. Yatsa mechutach u'mesuras. If the baby comes out in pieces or feet first, mishayatsa ruba hareu ki yalud. When the majority of the baby comes out, it's considered to be birthed. Rabbi Yossi Omer, mishayatsa kitikno. Rabbi Yossi says only when it comes out normally. My kamer. So what does that mean? Amar Papa halkamer is what it means to say. Here we go. Yatsa mechutach u'mesuras. If the baby comes out mechutach u'mesuras, meaning in pieces or feet first. Mishayatza rubo harehu ki yalud. Ultimately, again, when the majority of the body of the fetus emerges, ultimately it's considered as if it's birthed. Hakitikno, but I will say ultimately, again, if the baby comes out, quote unquote, normally. What does normally mean? Head first, harosh poter. Ultimately, again, once the head emerges, halach lamaisa, the baby is considered birthed. Rabbi Yossi says no. Mishayatza rubo kitikno. Rabbi Yossi says it is only what? It is only halacha lemaisa when the majority of the body comes out in the normal fashion. Maskef Rav Zvid, what does that mean? Michlal de b'mesuras rubo namilo poter. Are you saying then that halacha lemaisa, that I will say that is Rabbi Yossi saying that even for the halachos of rov, when it's coming out in pieces, that she's only tamei if it comes out head first? The Gemara says that doesn't make sense. Mechlad de mesuras rubo nami lapot. You tell me that when the baby comes out feet first, that once the majority of the body comes out, the baby is not considered birthed until the time. Ultimately, that's what until the head comes out. That doesn't make sense. Hakaimalon de rubo kekulo. I will say everyone agrees that what? Everyone agrees halacha lemaisa, that when the majority of the body of the fetus emerges, what's the halacha? The baby is birthed. Right? So no one's arguing on that point, because that's rubok, right? That's just rov. That's in general a din of rov. The machlokas we're dealing with over here is what's the status of just the head by itself. Ella Amar Rav Zvid, rather Rav Zvid says this is what we're saying. Halchi kamar. Yotza mechutach u'mesuras. Here we go. The baby comes out in pieces or feet first. Once the majority of the baby's body, first wide line, once the majority of the baby comes out, it's considered to be birthed. Hakitikno. What happens if the baby comes out kitikno? Kitikno means in the normal fashion. What does that mean, normal fashion? Head first. What's the halacha? Harosh poter. Ultimately, again, the emergence of the head. When we say poter, by the lashon poter, for these purposes means because it's being quoted in the context of bechar. Poter means it would exempt the next baby from Pidyon Ben. But for our purposes, what that means is once the head comes out, in Allah Lamaisa, that's a Leida, she's Tamei Tumas Leida. Rabbi Yossi says no. So we'll say, so according to this approach, it sounds like what everybody's saying is like this. If the baby comes out feet first or in pieces, in order for the mother to be Tamei Tumas Leida, the rove of the fetus has to come out. But if Halacha Lamaisa is coming out head first, then Polter, the birth of the head is considered to be birth. Rabbi Yossi says no. Mishiyatsu kitikno lechayim. Ultimately, Rabbi Yossi says that's only when she is birthing what would be a viable fetus. Rashi says Mishiyatsa kitikno lechayim hadrosh Polter. I want to be clear. Rabbi Yossi is not necessarily saying that the baby has to be alive. What he's saying, it has to be what could technically speaking be a viable fetus. To exclude what? To exclude mechutach. We'll say in the case of obviously where the baby's coming out, the fetus coming out in pieces, that's not a viable birth. So we'll say like this. I agree essentially that halacha l'maisa, the birth of the head is considered to be birth when the fetus is whole. So we'll say in that case again, whether the fetus is alive or not, the birth of the head ultimately again will be the birth. But if the fetus is coming out in pieces, once the fetus is in pieces, the head is no different than any other body part of the baby, and therefore it's only once the majority of the fetus emerges from the mother that halacha l'maisa, the mother will be Tamei Tumas Leida. We have a brayso that supports this. Mechutach O mesuras. So we'll say if the baby is mechutach or mesuras, mishi yatsa ruba harezek yalut. So ultimately, again, when the majority of the baby's body comes out, is considered birthed. Hakitikno, but yet again, if the baby's coming out, not we'll call normally, i.e., head first, harosh poter. The emergence of the head ultimately again is considered to be the birth. Rabbi Yossi says no. Mishi yatsa kitikno lechayim. Only when the baby is born in what we call a viable state, right? Which essentially means when the fetus is intact. Again, Rabbi Yossi is not requiring that the fetus be alive. What he's saying ultimately is that it emerges in a way where, technically speaking, this is quote-unquote a viable fetus. When is it a viable fetus? When it's intact. Vezo ketikno lachayim mishiyatza rov rosho. When the baby's body is intact and the majority of the head has emerged. Ve'eza rov rosho. And I will say, what is the majority of the head? Rabbi Yossi Omer mishiyatza tzadav. Interestingly, Rabbi Yossi says, when the head has emerged to the point of the temples. Right, to the point I was supposed to say is a bit more than what? Is more than the forehead. Right, more than the forehead. So the Gemara says, when the forehead comes out. Others say when you begin to see the literally just like crowning, right, the top of the carrying the horns of the head. So we'll say, so bottom line, how do we paskin? So we paskin ultimately again that the head itself, Rambam paskins that the head is kirov evarim, and ultimately again once the head comes out, Leida is considered to have occurred. We do not paskin like Shmuel. Once the head emerges, ultimately again that baby is considered to be birthed, right? And halach lamaisa again, anything that comes after it will not be a bachar. The mother will be tamei tumas leida. Good. Says the Mishnah. We'll say, here we go. Hamapeles. We'll say, the truth is, we've seen this case before, actually. Hamapeles ve'ein yadua mahu. So let's listen to this. If a mother goes ahead, if the woman goes ahead and she miscarries, and she doesn't know what she miscarried. So we'll say, so in this case over here, she knows that she miscarried a fetus. She knows that she miscarried a baby. She doesn't know if halacha l'maisa it was male or female. So what's the halacha? Teishi l'zachar nekeva. So we'll say, okay, we're already proficient in this case. We know. What do? We essentially give her the halachos as if she had both a boy and a girl, which means for our purposes what? We give her the yemei tumah of a girl and the yemei tohar of a boy, right? So halacha l'maisa give her the longest yemei tumah, the shortest yemei tohar. So the Gemara says, I'm sorry. What happens if she expels something and she's not sure? Was it a vlad? Was it a baby? Or was it something else? So the Gemara says, in that case, teishev lezachar ulenekeva ulenida. The boss say in that case, halacha lamaisa, she'll have to observe the halachos of childbirth and also the halachos of niddah. The boss say, what does that effectively mean? That effectively means that halacha lamaisa she gets no yemei tohar. That's what it means. Because there's remember I say, you make tar is an incredible chiddush, that a woman can have a period of time in which she's bleeding and yet the blood will be tar. That's an incredible chiddush that's only associated if you know there was a definitive birth. But if Allah she doesn't know there was a definitive birth, she'll get Yimei Tumah and not Yimei Tar. Good. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Shmuel Levi. Avra nar ve'pila. But listen to this case. A woman is crossing a river and she miscarries while in the river. Now as a result, what happens? The river washes away whatever it is that she expelled. So we'll say, what's the halacha? Mevia carbon v'neachal. She brings the carbon, because again, she gave birth, and the carbon is consumed. Now, even though she doesn't know that it was a boy, it was a girl, so fine, we already saw what we do for Yimei Tumah and Yimei Toar. But Allah L'maisa, she observes the halachos of childbirth, including the bringing of a carbon yoledes and the consumption of that carbon. Why? Because halach acharov nashim, v'rov nashim vlad ma'al yaladin. I will say, this is actually a fascinating statement. We go after the rove of women, and the majority of women give birth to babies, right? To fully formed babies. I want to point out something very interesting over here. This is not a statement about high rates of infant. I mean, this is not necessarily saying that women give birth to living babies. What it's saying is that halacha l'maisa, women give birth to fully formed fetuses. That we assume that whatever she gave birth to ultimately, again, was a fetus, and therefore halacha l'maisa, she observes the halachas later. Because as we've seen already, it doesn't have to be a living baby in order for a woman to observe the halachas of leida and to bring a carbon. So the majority of women, vlad ma'al yiladan, give birth to a regular baby, a viable baby. So the Gemara says, okay, Tanan, what about our Mishnah? En yadua im vlad haya. If ultimately again a woman, so we'll say, remember, this is a problem, because what did the Mishnah say? The Mishnah quoted a case where a woman expels something and she doesn't know that it was a vlad. Right? She doesn't know, was it a vlad or what is it, something else? So what did the Mishnah say? She has to observe Hilchos Leida and Hilchos Niddah. But I don't understand. So what does the Mishnah say? Teishliv v'zachar nekevin Niddah. Amai teishliv Niddah. Why does she have to observe Niddah? Leima halach acharov nashim. V'rov nashiv vlad ma'al yiladan. You just said something very important. You just espoused the rove. The rove is the majority of women give birth to a regular baby. So in this case over here, where you say that she doesn't know, did she expel a baby or a fetus or something else? So I don't understand. Why don't you say the rove? The rove is she expelled a fetus. And therefore, halacha l'maisa, she shouldn't have to observe nida, just halachos of leida. So Rish Gemara says, I will say a very fundamental distinction. Masnisin b'shalahuchsaka ubra, v'chikam Rabbi Shmuel Silber b'shalahuchsaka ubra. I will say, here's very simple. The Mishnah is dealing with a case of a woman who does not have a chazaka of being pregnant, which means what? She's in the first 3 months of potential pregnancy. In that time, we don't say huchsaka ubra. She doesn't have a chazaka of being pregnant. So I'll say in that case, when she expels something and she's not sure what she expels, she doesn't have the rove. Rabbi Shmuel Levi's statement is talking about a woman who we know is pregnant. She is pregnant. There's a chazaka that she is pregnant. In that case, halacha l'maisa, when she expels something but she doesn't know what she expelled, right? She walked into the river, expelled it in the river, and the river washed it away. Then we apply the rove, that rove nashim vlad ma'alya, that most women give birth to a viable, to a fully formed fetus, and therefore halacha l'maisa, she observes the halachos of leida. Tashmas, we'll say going with this chazaka. Well, listen to this. If you have an animal that went out to the field pregnant and came out empty. Empty means the animal gave birth. So we'll say, what's the halacha? Haba acharav b'char misafek. So it's interesting enough. Now the problem is, we did not see the birth, right? We don't know what happened over here. All I know is that, my animal went out to the field pregnant in the morning and came back having birthed in the afternoon. So what does the Mishnah say? So does the Brisa say? The animal that comes after it is going to be a b'char behema misafek. Says the Gemara, why? Va'amai. Halach achar ro behemos vlad ma'alya yiladan. So why don't we say the majority of animals ultimately again give birth to offspring, right? Healthy, normal offspring. So if that's the case, apply the rove, and therefore the animal that comes after it should not be a bechar at all. To which the Gemara says, v'hai pashatu, and therefore the second animal that comes out will be a simple pasha. Pasha means a non-bechar. Amravina mishum diikal ne'man rov behemos yoldos davar apolter me'bechora umiutan yoldos davar she'an apolter me'bechora. Supposed to listen to this, because even though there's a rove, there's also a miut. The rove, the majority of animals give birth to the type of animal that would exempt its next offspring from bechora. But a miut, right, a minority of animals go ahead and give birth to something that is considered to essentially be a non-birth, and therefore would not exempt the next animal from Bechora. Now watch this. There's another piece. V'chala yoldos metanfos. Both say apparently in the world of animals, so an animal goes ahead and before it gives birth, it has some type of discharge. Rashi says Yom echad kodem leida. Right? Normally, and before animals give birth, the day before they gave birth, they have some type of discharge the day before. And what happens? V'zu hoyo v'lo tinfa. This particular animal in question did not have the discharge yesterday. Therefore, isla leruba. So we'll say, what you have over here is as follows. It's actually quite fascinating. I have a rove that says majority of animals give birth to healthy offspring. Good. I have a miut that says minority of animals do not give birth to viable type of offspring. Plus, normally animals go ahead and emit a discharge the day before they gave birth. This animal did not emit the discharge. So take the fact that the animal didn't emit the discharge, together with what? Together with the miut that says that animals give birth to something that is not viable and would not exempt subsequent offspring from Bechora. And because I don't know what happened, therefore what? The second animal that is born will be a Bechor misafek. Says the Gemara, if that's the case, ikol ayoldos metanfos. If that's the case, that when all animals give birth, normally they have some type of discharge. Both say if this animal didn't emit a discharge, that means that what? There wasn't a birth. And if there wasn't a birth, then the subsequent animal that's born shouldn't just be a Bechor misafek, but should be a legitimate Bechor. Ela ema rov yoldos metanfos. Rather say the majority of animals emit some type of discharge. V'zu hoyo v'lo tinfa. And since this animal did not emit the discharge, Israeli ruba. So essentially what you have over here is you have two mutes that come together and go ahead and erode the rove. So I have a rove that says majority of animals give birth normally. A miut that minority do not. Rove animals go ahead and emit the discharge. Miut do not. This animal in question over here didn't emit a discharge, and I don't know what happened with the birth. So the two miuts ultimately again could erode the rove that says majority of animals give birth to viable offspring, and therefore the second offspring that comes will be a Bechor misafek. Kiyasa Rabin Amar Maser Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina. Supposed to listen to this. So when Rabin came along, he said as follows: Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina raised Master Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina Toeh velo yedana maiti yufta. Right. Ultimately, again, he brought up a question from this case of Toeh. I both said the case of Toeh of a woman who made a mistake, or we'll call it made a mistake. Ultimately, actually, look at Rashi. Toeh mastisa demari beisha Toeh shelo yada es leidasa. He raised the question from the Brayso. I both say a woman who comes before us who knows that she gave birth, but doesn't know when she gave birth. So circumstances occurred, whatever the Metzias is. She knows she had a birth. She doesn't know when the birth occurred. So I'll say, so Rabban comes along and says, Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina brought a question from this Mishnah of the case of Toeh, the woman who was unsure about when she gave birth. V'lo yedana maiti yufta. But I don't know what his question was. Okay, so before we get to the question and what it was and what it wasn't, let's talk about the Braisa. Maihi. What's the case of the woman who's Toeh? Here we go. Desanya, Amud Beis, Isha Shiyata Samaleya. Both say interesting case. A woman, when she quote unquote left us, she was pregnant. Ubasa Rekanis. And she comes back empty, which means she miscarried. Look at Rashi. Ha'isha sheyatza melea v'chazar rekanis l'sov zman meruba ve'ena yodas emas yatza heriona. So I say, here's what she knows. She lost the pregnancy. She does not know when she lost the pregnancy. Okay, what does she know? V'yavia lefaninu shlosha shavuin tahorin. So I'll say what she does know is as follows. She knows that for 3 weeks, she was totally tahor, right? For 3 weeks, she had no bleeding. V'asara shavuos. Then she had 10 subsequent weeks, right? 10 weeks. Echad tameh, ve'echad tahor. So we'll say, okay, get ready for this, right? She has 10 weeks, and they were alternating weeks. Out of those 10, 1 week she bled, 1 week she didn't bleed, 1 week she bled, so on and so forth throughout the entire 3 weeks. Look at Rashi just a moment. Kilomar, misheba lefanenu, yashva la shlosha shavuin tahorin. Mikol vakol. She came to us with 3 weeks in which she had absolutely no bleeding. Mikol vakol. So the Gemara, Mikol vakol, im yom bo'a, v'lo dak kulehai. The yom zes safek, the shema rasa bo bayom, kodem shabasa lefanenu. Filach ikar leitar. Fine, so we'll say, so what happens? So she has 3 weeks in which she did not see any dam, but she had 10 weeks of alternating bleeding, right? 1 week she bled, 1 week she didn't bleed. So we'll say, so now, what's our shaila? What do we do over here? In other words, Rabbi says we're going to see essentially, we're going to do this a little bit quickly because of time, but Lamaisa, what we're going to see is we have to treat her with all the possible calendrical variations. So watch this. So it says the Yimar, here we go. So Mishameshes La'or Shloshim V'Chamish, so she could be with her husband on the 35th day. Umatbilin Osa Tishim V'Chamish Tevilos Rabbi Shammai. Rabbi Shammai says she has to go to the mikvah 95 times. Now we'll see exactly where Rabbi Shammai gets 95 times from. We're going to see that. Rabbi Silo says no, a little bit better. Shloshim v'chamesh, not 95 times, but rather what? 35 times. So we'll say, so you understand what's happening over here. Essentially what's going to occur here is as follows. Because we don't know what happened here, essentially what's going to end up happening, I will say, is the perfect halachic storm. What we have over here is going to be every single potential variation of Leda, Niddah, Zava. So that's what's happening, everybody. So when you put this all together, Beis Shammai says you might as well get a good membership at the mikveh because it's going to be right. It's going to be 95 times. Beis Hillel says served out. So let's go through the cases quickly. Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda Omer. So I was like, Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda. Baruch Hashem says no. She just needs one immersion at the mikveh at the end. In other words, there's going to be a point in time where we've exhausted all the possibilities. She'll go to the mikvah once at the end. So here we go. So we'll say for that first week of the 10, I understand that she can't be with her husband. Why? Ema yoledes zachari, because maybe again she gave birth to a boy. Yoledes zachar. Therefore, days, Shavua. She gave birth in a state of ziva. So we saw the situation where a woman, let's say, has prolonged labor during the days where, technically speaking, she could contract tumas zivos. She could become a zava gedola. In which case, she would have 2 weeks for tumas leida v'nekeva, and then an additional week for zava. Ella shavua ravi. We'll say, but again, on that fourth week, afal gav dekachaz yadam tishamish. We'll say the fourth week, the truth is there's no real possibilities. For the fourth week, she should be in the clear for tumas leida of a zachar, tumas leida of an nekeva, and even tumas leida of a nekeva bezov. So she should be with her husband. The ha tarhu, because ultimately again she's tar. Lav mishum deloaz linan basaruba. It must be what Rabbi say. Must be that we don't go basaruba. And Rabbi say, what is Rabbi say? This is the kasha. Remember again, we were just raising before that. Don't we follow the rove? It would appear that maybe we don't go after the rove. Rabbi say, what does that mean? Take a quick look at Rashi. Rashi says again, it's in the wide lines of Rashi, 5 lines in. Lav mishum delo azlinan basaruba umisapkinon le below vlad veles le damtor. Rabbi say, maybe there's another possibility. By the way, what's the other possibility? Rabbi say, the other possibility is she did not have a viable birth. If she didn't have a viable birth, then what? There's no dam toar. If there's no dam toar, then all I have is what? Dam nida or dam zava. So you see from here, I will say, even though we know this woman was pregnant, she comes back, quote unquote, not quote unquote, she comes back not pregnant. But maybe we don't follow the rove. We say that maybe she didn't have a baby, or she didn't have a viable birth. Elamai. So the Gemara says, Elamai lo yadana mai tiyufta. So what does it mean ultimately when he says, remember, was going back before, that Rabbi Chanina said, I don't know what the tiyuft is, I don't know what the kash is. Here it is. So the Gemara says, Ema herchika leidasa. Because maybe what's the issue? Maybe the issue says herchika leidasa. If you look at Rashi, Ema herchika leidasa, haidelo yavino leimei toar, lamishum safik delavlatu ela ema hariyamim rabim, kodesh alfanei yada. So maybe the issue over here is the reason we won't give her yemei toar is because I will say maybe she has already given birth long before she's coming to us. So therefore, maybe even if there would be dam toar, that period of dam toar has long gone. That's why we can't give her dam toar. To which the Gemara says, so so hach shavua detar hu tishamish. So what about the 5th week? The 5th week, she also should be definitively tar. She should be able to be with her husband. Hach shavua revi Kol yom of yom misapkina le besof leida ubetchilas leida ubetchilas nida. Because I will say, why doesn't that work? Because Lamaisa, the fourth week, ultimately, again, each and every day of that week, will have to give her the suffix as either being at the end of a leida process or the beginning of a nida process. V'tamnia gufe ema tchilas nidahi ubayla mesav. I'm sorry, lost the place. Ve'esrin v'tamnia gufe ema tchilas nidahi ubayla mesav shivla nidas. And on the 28th day, let's say ultimately again that becomes the beginning of her nida cycle, and therefore she should have to sit 7 days for nida. Ultimately again, but on the 21st day, so we're just going through all the possible variations. On the 21st day, she should be permitted to be with her husband. Rabbi Shimon damar asar la'asos kain shema tavo lidei safek. Rabbi Shimon says you can't do that. Ultimately, why you can't allow her to be with her husband on the 21st day? Because ultimately, again, maybe she will come to a suffix. Rabbi will say, what's the issue over here? Because the issue is halacha l'maisa. If it turns out that we allow her to be with her husband, Rashi says, and she sees dam after bia, if it turns out that retroactively that sighting of dam could undo all of the previous clean days, and it turns out that her husband was then bo'el l'nida la'arta teshamish, so let her be with her husband that evening. Kisherasa be'erev. Ultimately, the case would be that halacha l'maisa, she saw in the evening. Umat bilin osa tishim v'chamesh tevilos. So we'll say, so now the Brisa said that halacha l'maisa, we'll go ahead, Beis Shammai said, we'll make her go to the mikveh 95 times. So the Gemara says, Shavua kama, in the first week, mat bilin osa beledusa. We go ahead and make her go to the mikveh in the evenings. Ima yoledes zachari. Maybe she gave birth to a boy. Shavua sheni mat bilin osa beledusa. The second week we'll make her go to the mikveh at night. Ema yoledes nekevahi. Biyamama, Emar yoledes zachar bezovhi. By day, we'll say maybe the second week. By day, maybe she gave birth to a boy, but in the case of Zav, Shavua Shlishi Matbilin Osa B'Yamam. On the third week, she'll go to the mikvah by day. Emar Yoledes Nekeva Bezofi. Maybe she gave birth to a girl, but in a state of Zivus. Belelusa. What about at night? By Shammai Tanav Amru Tevulas Yom Aruch by Tvila. By Shammai goes according to his opinion, who holds that Rabbi say ultimately again a Tevulas Yom Aruch, which Rabbi say means a Tvul Yom. Tvul Yom means someone who's gone to the mikvah, but ultimately again still requires Herav Shemesh. So interestingly enough, Beis Shammai will say that halacha l'maisa, this whole situation is considered to be like one long Tvul Yom. And Beis Shammai is of the opinion that even one long protracted Tvul Yom ultimately still requires a tefillah. All right, so we'll have to stop over here for today. We'll pick up at Mirat Hashem with the 95 tevilos of Beis Shammai and Mirat Hashem tomorrow.